Welcome to an Inside Carolina Postgame show. I'm Tommy Ashley. We are sponsored, as always, by Johnny T-Shirt, johnnytshirt.com. A lively chat, 170-plus folks in the live chat at 11:30 or so, or 11:20 or so on a Friday night. Carolina falls to BYU by 2, 78-76. Rob, let's get into it. I'll throw it to you to start off, and we'll sort of weave through what we saw tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it looked like October basketball on both sides. I saw a lot of things to like. I thought, can you see me?
I cannot see you, but keep talking. I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. But aesthetically, I liked what this team is doing better than last year's team. It was nice to see a lot more passing, less dribbling. They're not there yet, obviously. Some very sloppy play on both ends. Win-loss is not really the concern to me as much. I mean, we know last year they beat Memphis and that was fun, but it really is, you're trying to pick out how the team is going to play, and this team I think is going to play at least in a style for me that is more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, see if you can look on there and find out your camera. I guess your camera clicked off. It is preseason, right? It's preseason scrimmages. These podcasts are the same way, but unless somebody in the chat tells me otherwise, we can hear you fine. And there you go.
Yeah,
and
I don't know what happened.
There's no telling, man. It's we work the kinks out early, and it is late on a Friday night. So a lot to talk about, though. Let's start at the top. Let's talk about Caleb Wilson. I found it interesting when I re-listened to when we discussed his game, and you said almost verbatim what we saw happen there towards the end. Diving into the lane, being aggressive, but without a plan. Cannot really bang on him at all for his performance tonight. That was a bad step by him. But your thoughts on how he looked, especially going up against the number one player in the class?
I thought he was excellent. I mean, I think so far from what I've seen through all the early season stuff, he's ahead of where I thought he would be. You know, I sort of stand by my assessment that the more he tries to do off the dribble 18-footers, the less successful he'll be. I mean, he hit a beautiful one in the first half. But when you see him as a finisher, getting tips around the rim, you know, the Marvin Williams type stuff that we talked about, had some great defensive moments. I mean, one absolutely fantastic defensive possession, especially I noticed against Dybantsa. I mean, you can see, I was texting with people during the game. I thought, okay, this is how he makes his money. I mean, he could make $200 million in the NBA just based on his defense. And I think he's going to be a good offensive player too. You know, I like this competitive fight. You know, he seemed to take that matchup personally in a way, but he, other than maybe one or two times, he didn't allow it to get him off his game. You know, he just sort of the things we talked about where you're right, he did get wild and he did make some bad plays, but overall I was really impressed.
Yeah, you blinked that again.
I see.
You got, if you can figure it out, whatever it is. But looking at Wilson's numbers, 22 and 10, what I liked is 9 of 17 from the field. And, you know, he did not get to the free throw line. Well, yeah, he did. 4 for 6 from the free throw line. He did not shoot but 1 3, which I like seeing. Yeah, I like seeing him get to the basket. He had 3 fouls. When you look at North Carolina's interior, and we'll sort of start there, and you can take it wherever you want. But I think we kind of nailed this stuff in the preseason, and it sort of played out against BYU. Is Carolina has more size, but that size is not the physical aspect of it, of what you think when you have a ton of size. Veesaar looked good at moments, but he struggled with the size of Keita in there. Just overall, your thoughts there on Veesaar, and we can talk about Jaron Stevenson as well, because I think he showed some things that can be helpful this season.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We talked about all this, the absence of physicality. They have size and they have length, and that showed up tonight, but the absence of physicality really hurt them at times. I mean, giving up all those offensive rebounds, I think that's likely to become a recurring issue. And I'm not sure what they can do. I mean, as you saw, the backup centers they tried really did not have a good night. Veesaar just has to get more physical. But there was one free throw rebound where he just got pushed out of the way, and that can't happen because you see Caleb Wilson is not really physically equipped to be an enforcer yet either. I'm hoping that Jaron Stevenson or Zayden High can sort of develop into that player. but that's something that they're missing. And I think it will be more of an issue on defense than offense because they are really skilled offensively. The big guys are, and they give the offense a lot more balance and firepower. But defensively, they're just going to have to figure out some way to tighten up.
What did you see from Veesaar's offensive game that you liked? 5 for 12 from the field, 0 for 3 from three-point range. You'd like to see him make at least one or two of those. To your point about the defensive rebounding, had only 2, but he had 6 offensive rebounds. Just overall, his offensive influence on the outcome there, Rob.
Yeah, I think they're going to use him a lot as a high post playmaker. And you saw that where he sets a screen instead of like in prior years with RJ Davis and Caleb Love, where they dribble and they try to make a play. He will get a pass. He can take it himself. He had one beautiful drive, I thought Veesaar did late in the shot clock, the type of possession where they failed throughout last season. This season, I think you'll get more versatility from guys like that. I also think that as a passer, he and Wilson will probably develop good chemistry over time. I like the two-man game. Kai and Evans already looks for Veesaar, and they had a nice connection or two. So I think there's a lot to like about Veesaar. His shooting is going to be good. It's more of the physical aspects that are missing, but otherwise, I think you can see why they prioritized him as much as they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the size. You know me, I like physical play on the inside, and I thought we saw, and I don't know how many times they'll play players like Kada, but we saw those shortcomings there, and they could become an issue. We'll see. But I thought tonight his skills were evident, as were the weaknesses there. Talking with Rob Harrington, 550 people in the chat. This is impressive, folks. Shout out!
And I apologize for the lack of video. Although maybe I'm better this way. I'm better heard than seen.
Yeah, we can't. I can't get the chemistry going because I can't see when you're about to wrap up. But it's all good here. Johnny T-shirt and JohnnyT-shirts.com, our sponsors. I'm in a new place too, so I do have better internet here than I do at home. So that's always a good thing. So maybe we can get that kinks ironed out. Carolina Falls, what did you think of the last play? We talked about who are they going to go to when they need a bucket. Seth Trimble was the guy there at the end. Rob, what did you think of the play?
I thought it was a neat call. Part of me wanted them to go for 3, sort of go for the dagger win, see if you could steal one. But all things considered, I thought it was a nice call. You get Trimble streaking down the lane. You know that he can draw fouls and he can be a finisher. It was well defended. BYU was ready for it. They took the angle away. I think he tried to draw a foul, but it was going to be real tough. In that circumstance, I would like for them to have an option too, but they really didn't have that much time. So if he doesn't have it, he can kick it out. Like I said, I was hoping for a 3, but I can't quibble with that play call in that situation. At least it wasn't one of these deals where they just pass the ball around the perimeter and it goes nowhere and someone heaves it from 30 feet. It was an aggressive play going to the rim. And so I thought it was perfectly good.
Yeah, a lot of chat discussion about Cadeau and all that. Cadeau would be really good on this team, but he's not on this team. Kyan Evans basically ran the point tonight, Rob. This is an area I think Carolina played well, and they could have stolen that game tonight. But point guard is an area that I'm going to be probably caught up on most of the season. You're a smarter man than I am. How do you think that Kyan Evans and how they handled the point guard position as a whole tonight? Because Derek Dixon got an opportunity. He did not play well. He had 7 points, and he had some moments, but there were a couple of bad turnovers in there too. But just point guard in general for you.
It's definitely a big question. I don't think they have a natural playmaker, but I think they have intelligent, skilled passers. They don't have an elite ball handler. They don't have a Cadeau or a Davis or even a Love, I think, who can create that way. I like the way that Dixon played tonight. He did have a couple of bad turnovers, but I thought he had some really savvy plays for a freshman in an October game, especially one defensive possession where he was stuck against Dybantsa and he jumped Dybantsa's spin move. He anticipated it and he made Dybantsa miss, and you wouldn't expect that. I mean, he has no business guarding Dybantsa, but that just shows you that's the type of basketball player play that you love to see, especially from a freshman. Kyan Evans, I think the foul trouble sort of threw him off early. He got taken out of the game. He sat for a long time. I don't think that he's going to be a focal point as much as everyone may have thought when they signed him. I think he's going to be a valuable secondary creator and a really good spot up shooter, catch and shoot. You didn't see a lot of that tonight, but I think he and the team, I think, will be much more effective 3-point shooting. I'm sure BYU will be too. Once the season gets going and the offense starts to gel. I mean, a lot of what we saw, Tommy, was, I thought at least, you see players trying to go to the right place, but they're thinking like, okay, this is this play. I go here. This guy goes there. Once that stuff becomes second nature, I think it will flow a lot better and you'll get more good shots in rhythm.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point there. A lot of thinking there. Kyan Evans did have 5 assists and 1 turn. Derek Dixon 1 assist and 3 turns, and like I mentioned, that bad stretch for him. But it's quality, quality experience. You mentioned October basketball, and it kind of threw me off because I'm thinking, have we ever talked about October basketball? Whew, times have changed. On the other side, you had Rob Wright, the Baylor point guard, former Baylor point guard, that was effective against Carolina. Do you think? Let me ask you this, and this is one of those questions we may be talking about a lot. It is UNC. Do you think Luka's absence from a ball handling and point guard position, even though that's not what he naturally plays, do you think that had an effect on sort of what we saw, especially after Kyan Evans went out?
I do think it would have made the team deeper. It didn't look like a deep team tonight, not just in the front court, but also in the back court. Can they go more than 7 or 8 deep? Jonathan Powell got off to a little bit of a sluggish start. I think he'll make the rotation in the end. I think what Luka can do is give them a little bit more creativity. Some of those possessions that broke down, I think that's where he can help. Maybe he'll have a little bit too quick of a trigger that they'll need to work on, but they're going to need that, I think, because if they don't have a real post game, I continue to hope they'll go inside more with the pass. But also, I think having someone like Luka who can create his own shot off the dribble to some extent. I mean, he's not going to get into the lane and do it as much, but I think he can create his own 3. And I do think it certainly wouldn't have hurt them tonight. And I'll be really eager to see him. Hopefully he's on the court next Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of blows my mind that he's not. When has Carolina been ahead of one of these situations? I don't know what the exact situation is now, but he's been cleared. He's been at school and all the various things, and he's not on the court tonight. Granted, it is an exhibition and not a real game, but it would be helpful to get him some opportunities before they start playing real games. Talking with Rob Harrington on Inside Carolina's postgame show. Carolina loses 78-76 to Brigham Young out in the Delta Center, Salt Lake City. 650 plus people in here. If everybody would do a couple things for me, like and all that stuff on the YouTube video, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're in the chat, you subscribe. So if you are not in the chat and you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, click on that button and do that. And then go to InsideCarolina.com and subscribe to the new On 3 version of Inside Carolina. It's the same great content, same great people, and a lot more Rob Harrington. And he will be on the InsideCarolina.com premium stuff. So you need to sign up for your new subscription there if you haven't already. Rob, what else you got? We're 15 minutes into this. I feel like it was better than I expected, but like you said earlier, it was October basketball, and it felt like a scrimmage, like a summer ball scrimmage at times. But then there were some good moments. I'll let you just sort of outline what you thought, what you're thinking, maybe that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think on balance it was successful. Would have been a nice to get a win, but I thought it was a successful outing. I think you can see a different style of play. I mean, there was no question that they're playing differently on offense, and that's great as far as I'm concerned. I think the rotations might come into focus earlier than we thought. Part of that is because some of the guys at the top are maybe ahead of pace, and some of the reserves may be behind. But I wouldn't be surprised if Hubert goes back to his trusty 7 or 8 man rotation, and that might he may not have a choice. That's one storyline we see emerging. But on balance, I think you see a fundamental change in the way they play. I think you see they look different. They look bigger. They get a lot more coverage without having to run as much. Just because they have this length, and that shows up on both ends. Even though Veesaar had his issues defensively, he made some plays as an offensive rebounder, as a finisher, just by virtue of being really tall and long. And that is hugely important. And it was something they were missing last year. And obviously the coaching staff made it a top priority to fix. I think all of that stuff will make them better. There are some questions that this team has they've never had to deal with in the Hubert era. Most importantly, lack of point guard. And I think defensive rebounding may be more of a challenge this year than it's ever been. I think eventually they'll fix that. Some of the overall physicality, you and I will be discussing that in future games for sure.
Absolutely. And before we get out of here, I think we need to talk about depth at the center position. I mean, I was surprised that James Brown and Zayden High more so not effective at all tonight. What did you see there? And I thought James Brown had trouble setting the screen. I mean, we've seen him, and granted, it's in those blue-white scrimmages, and I always caveat those where they're playing against each other. But Veesaar played, what did he play, 33 minutes tonight. Judging from what we saw from those guys, it looks like he's going to have to do that. We'll have an over-under show when we'll talk about Veesaar's minutes over-under, and I had it at 28.5. I think, Rob, you're going to literally have to push that way over that if you're not going to get much more from Brown and High. Your thoughts on that aspect of this lineup, this rotation?
That was real disappointing for sure. That neither High nor Brown was able to give them 5 good minutes. And I think they'll have to keep trying because someone has to be a backup center. I mean, there will be times when Veesaar gets in foul trouble or winded, and someone has to just be credible for a few minutes. They don't have to be all that productive, but they've got to do better than that. I mean, the fouls and the turnovers, that stuff just can't happen. That is your job is to not hurt the team when you're in a deeper reserve role, and they weren't able to accomplish that tonight. Those two guys. Stevenson, I think, has potential to slide down some too, but he's also not really, his style is not to be a center, but they may not have a choice. I think everyone's probably kicking themselves a little bit like, man, wouldn't it be nice to have Lubin on this team to sort of be a 1-2 punch? I wouldn't necessarily want he and Veesaar playing beside each other, but I would love to have Lubin as an expensive backup center if they could have done it. But they didn't, so they have to figure out a way to make that work. But you're right, and unless and until they do, Veesaar's got to be in tip-top shape, and he's got to stay healthy and out of foul trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we start talking about key players on this team, obviously Caleb Wilson's going to be the man. I think he proved that tonight, and in the matchup. And I thought it was an interesting watch, and it says a lot about Wilson is he didn't try. There were times where he tried to do too much, and in the drive I talked about earlier, but he didn't try to go all out one-on-one against Dybantsa and make it about that matchup, and he stayed within the parameters of the game for the most part. But I think Veesaar, and I've thought the bigs and the point guard were the issues that this team could have. Veesaar is going to have to be the man at the center position, whether folks like it or not, whether folks like that style of basketball. But, Rob, I agree with you. He's going to have to play a lot of minutes. If High and Brown are going to struggle, I think they'll come along a little bit. Anything left, Rob Harrington? It's been fun. This is the first one. Actually, we did one after the blue-white scrimmages, so this is the third one of probably 40 of these post-game press conferences, post-game shows we'll do. Final thoughts.
I think this will feed into our over/under and prediction shows, but I think I stand by what I said all summer. I think this can be a top 15 team if some of these question marks get addressed positively, and the things that we think they will do well, they actually do well consistently. I don't think it's an elite team. I think you probably could see that tonight. There are some things missing, but I think it could be a good, fun team. And overall, from my perspective, just as a fan, much more fun to watch. I mean, I know it wasn't beautiful tonight, but I really enjoy the emphasis on player and ball movement, and I'll look forward to watching that continue.
Yeah, that'll be a fun thing to watch develop and improve, as you say. Shout out to 600, almost 700 people in the live chat. A few folks that like to bicker back and forth in the chat, but that's to be expected when you have 700 plus people in here. So folks can go at it, just do it respectfully, and I'll let y'all be in the live chat. If you don't like what people say in these live chats, just ignore them. It's a pretty simple concept. And don't let people take away your shine if you're in the live chat. Rob Harrington, the man with no face tonight. He is the expert here on these shows. Rob and I will be together for a ton of these podcasts, like I mentioned. Stay tuned to the Coast to Coast crew on Sunday night doing their predictions, season prediction shows. And then we will get together on Tuesday night, a live show doing over-unders. There's a thread on the on the UNC basketball premium message board, over-under thread, and offer your suggestions. We're compiling all those, and we'll give you a shout out, and we'll do those on Tuesday night. Plenty of other coverage. Winston-Salem State post-game, we'll do that. There's Inside Carolina Live tomorrow for the football game. Just a ton of great content at Inside Carolina Live, or at Inside Carolina live shows, live podcasts, and plenty of other written content from Adam and Jeremiah and all the boys and girls taking care of that. Rob, I appreciate it, man. It's been a preseason post-game podcast, but I think we got through it.
Yeah, I appreciate your patience. We'll get all the video stuff sorted out, but I enjoyed it. It's going to be a great, fun season on here, just like it was last year, hopefully with a better and more fun team to help us too.
Absolutely. It's got to be fun. If it's not fun, why is it worth doing? Well, these will be fun for sure. Shout out to Johnny T-Shirt, JohnnyT-Shirt.com, and everybody that watched us, and shout out to the whole Inside Carolina crew for making it possible. Everybody be safe.